5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Dope! These freaking kids. Welcome to Sacrilicious with Robin Snurts, a Simpsons review podcast. I'm your lovable nerd Snurts, aka Joshua Stearns, and joining me is the equally delightful Robin. Don't have a cow, coward.
Hey yo, what's happening, Josh?
Not much, man. Another day of recording with you, and we both saw the most excellent movie of recent memory because it's the thing we just saw. Deadpool and Wolverine. What were your thoughts of that epic adventure?
It was fantastic. I was really, really impressed. I think the writing was good, and I liked how they put it all together. Couldn't recommend it more. A blast to see in the theater, too.
Same here, and it was very, very fun to watch it in the theater because, you know, if I live by myself, so usually I'm watching movies alone, and I will still laugh out loud, but obviously laughter is contagious, so it was kind of nice to be in a nice, cool, air-conditioned room, munching on the popcorn, the full movie-going experience.
Yeah. And I had butter on the popcorn, which I haven't done in forever because it used to be nasty, and it was so good.
It's good, man. It's really good. I also love how these high-end movie theaters now have more comfortable seating, and you can get a brewski if you want as well.
The reclining seats are a blast.
Yeah, so it was a very comfortable experience, and I want to shout out to the crowd at Culver City Theater at that time because nobody was an asshole. They weren't cheering all the time. They weren't on their phone. Everybody was watching the movie.
Yeah, it was the same in our theater. We were all having a blast together.
Yeah, and I, for one, can't believe that Joe Biden made a cameo in Deadpool Wolverine.
With Kamala.
Yeah. That's amazing.
That's amazing.
So you want to talk about our new format, good sir?
Absolutely. We have decided to change the format up a bit. Same basic premise, but we're going to do one episode of The Simpsons per one episode of this podcast, simply because we were getting longer and longer with the other format. This will keep the episodes tighter. And so we're going to do the same thing where we each pick episodes, but we're going to switch off episodes of Sacrilicious to episode of Sacrilicious.
Yeah, and also it was just a little bit a realization of we want to make this hobby fun and still keep it enjoyable where we can produce regular content and not just get overworked.
Because
And to be honest, when you're doing 2 episodes, that's double the work. So our simple math is like, well, we'll keep the fake ad. We'll just pick one episode each. We'll do a rotation. You know, maybe Robin will go twice or I will go twice. But, you know, we'll mix it up and try to keep it as even as possible.
And it allows us to be more collaborative on all of them.
Correct. And we can maybe, you know, talk more about this particular episode and go on tangents and not have to worry about keeping it, you know, well, short tangents.
Under 2.5 hours?
Yeah, exactly. Because I know
because we're bad at that.
Yeah. I know as an avid podcast consumer that I usually check out after 90 minutes. So we're just trying to kind of keep things a little bit more manageable so we can keep having a lot of fun.
And because we're having an absolute blast. Yeah. And so we want to make sure that we have the space in our lives to keep doing this on a consistent basis. Because
a little peek behind the curtains, folks. We just spent 2 hours doing pre-production fun, talking about Hugh Hauser and a bunch of other things. I guarantee you most of it was relevant for the podcast. But you know, like this is like we put time into this and we want to have that time spent most wisely. And we decided to flip a coin. Robin won. So his pick for today's episode is from season 3, episode 4, the classic Bart the Murderer, directed by Rich Moore,
classic.
Written by John Swartzwelder, and the first air date is 10/10/1991. And yeah, fuck you for taking another Swartzwelder episode. I don't know what it is. Like, I love this guy so much. I praise him all the time, but I yet to pick one of his episodes. I don't know why.
Because we love the same jokes in these, you know, and his have clearly have stood out in my mind, even though I didn't know who he was. But,
so what?
91.
So why did you bring us Bart the Murderer, man? What was the reasoning for this pick?
This is one of those episodes that I think is just phenomenal in the early seasons, where they're still hand drawn for one thing. They're bringing all these new characters in. They're been on the air long enough that they start to really build out. So we get in this one, we get Joe Montana as Fat Tony. We get a Lionel Hutz coming in. We get
And a Troy
Lips.
McClure.
Yes, and Troy McClure. Come
Double the
on.
fill, double the fun.
Oh, it's just fantastic, and always stuck in my mind. I know I've held so many lines from this one episode since
Yes.
1991 when I watched it for the first time.
Yeah, same here. I love this episode. Like we were talking before, when the seasons were coming out on DVD, it was one a year. And the first two seasons of The Simpsons are great, but season 3 is really when it starts to peak for
Mm-hmm.
me. And like you said, I do enjoy the expansion where we are still talking about the core family, but we are now being more and more involved in the town of Springfield and its people.
And really, when the great seasons 3 to 12, whatever it is, really just kept building on that world, and it added so much. We're so grateful that they started creating other characters in this town. It's a big town.
Yeah, and I like the chalkboard gag for this one. Although with more current events, I wonder. It says high explosives in school don't mix. So kids at
It's
home,
a good message.
believe the message. Do not bring your explosives to school. Please use those in the park.
I feel like we can't even say this. Like, we're gonna have to delete this out of
Yeah,
this episode because the FBI is gonna come find us.
I mean, we'll
But we know what
see.
the truck looks like.
I also like how we had Jim Brooks and Nancy Cartwright on the commentary, along with the usual cast of characters like Matt Groening.
I love that Nancy Cartwright was on in particular.
And what was so special about her during this episode? Do you remember?
She was talking. She at the beginning of that commentary, it was really phenomenal. She was talking about how they were so popular that they were really trying to hide the identity of the characters, but at the same time, you know, she's pregnant, trying to do
Yeah.
the show, and it's blowing up. It's become the goddamn Beatles, and she's in hiding. And she talked about how like all these kids would come up to the door and be like, they found out where she was,
Yeah.
and it would knock on the door to get an autograph. And she was like, they were like, you were pregnant with Bart Simpson.
I also love how she says the line like, "Hey man, my water broke. I really got to get a better Bart Simpson." But she
It's a
did it
weird
so perfectly.
image of
It's
Bart
just yes, I know.
saying, "My water broke."
Yeah, yeah. So that was fun.
It was great to hear her.
Yeah,
I thought the rest of the commentary kind of was a little bit
yeah. It had some gems here
meandering,
and there, but you know, the commentary is a long, winding road of miscellaneous banter, and sometimes it focuses on the episode, and other times it does not.
It's like this. It's like this podcast. It's like, when did we drink that day or not?
Yeah. Also, I would imagine that they would do multiple recordings a day for the commentary. So can you imagine like being Matt,
Mm-hmm.
who's on every single commentary, just be like, okay, here we go again.
We're on hour 12.
Yeah. Yeah.
At the end, I think that Nancy Cartwright said, she's like, okay, now what are we doing? I think she said it on this commentary.
Yeah. Fun
Too funny.
times.
Well, we'll get right into the episode now with no delay. So we open up this on I love the production in this, and it starts with the opening scene because it's meant to be this beautiful morning. Sun is shining through the window. Bart is asleep in bed, and the crusty alarm clock goes off, and he jumps out of bed. He's like, "Good morning, world!" And he's just so excited for the day.
Yeah, very optimistic to start the morning.
But then starts to go downhill because he gets out of bed and you see, like the hint of a cloud when he steps on this. It looks very painful, like a spiked Stegosaurus toy.
Yep.
But it has not phased him, and he goes downstairs and he's just so excited for everything today, and he says, "Good morning, Lisa." And she's like, I love how she says, she's like, "What are you so happy about?" Like
Yeah,
their
she's a little
rivalry.
salty.
I love it. And he's like, "Why shouldn't it be great? I did my homework, I got my mojo working, and we're going on this field trip this afternoon." And then he goes to find the toy in his box of cereal, and it's not there, and it's like boom, boom,
And it was a
boom.
cool glow in the dark police badge.
With it, they talked about it in the commentary. What was the name of that cereal there?
Oh,
Can't
I don't
remember
know.
that one.
I don't
But the
remember
other
the name of the
one
cereal.
that Lisa
Jackie
was eating
O's?
was the Jackie O's.
Yeah.
They said it had tight pants on the back of the box. Very 80s
And of
reference
course,
there.
the guy who took the badge was Homer. So this grown ass man, our big lovable dog Homer, is like, "Hey, I got me a pretty spiffy police badge. All right."
I love that. I always think like, because then Homer's like, "That's mine." He's like, it's Officer Homer, and taunts him and doesn't give
Yeah.
it back. Like they act like brothers sometimes, which I think is
Yes.
a great. They're very similar people, him and
I
Homer.
I also love the bit about like literally the dog eating the homework.
so so he goes upstairs and he's we get a lot of him screaming in this episode. He's
Yes.
like, "You ate my homework," and he's mad, but then he's like, Santa's all helpers there looking so cute in that. It's really well drawn. And so she goes, "I didn't know dogs really did that."
And I
like
love how it
I learned
zoomed
something
in
today.
on one of his math answers, and it was 9 times 9 equals 100.
Because
So we know
the
he's
dog
getting,
hawks it up. The
yeah,
dog is
yeah.
like,
So it's like even if he had his homework, I don't think he's going to do very well on his
I
multiplication
think
tables.
that is those couple lines is just so well done,
Yep.
drawn in particular. So at this point, so Bart's day is going downhill, and you can kind of see a theme. And so then the bus honks, and he's not going to make it. He runs outside and just misses it. Like Lisa's in the bus, like waving bye at him and smiling.
Yeah. And then it instantly starts to rain, and I think I can't be for sure because I wasn't there, but I think this is a Schwartzwelder joke because this is his kind of thing. Really fast
Hmm.
cut beat stuff. So I think that this is something that he was just like, oh yeah, and it's going to immediately start raining for no reason, and then as soon as he gets to the school, it's going to stop raining.
It immediately stops. It is quick.
Yeah. Yeah, and like a rainbow comes out. It's like way over the top. It's way over the top animation.
Homer's, our Bart is like, "Oh man."
Yeah. And then his bad luck continues in the school.
Well, he's late, and
Yep.
Miss Krabappel's like, "You gotta go fill out a tardy slip. You gotta go to the principal's office." And he's like, "But I'm only 5." He goes, 10, 20, 40 minutes. That's pretty damn late.
Yeah.
And to hear an 8-year-old, saying, "That's pretty damn late."
Yeah. I guess that was an issue with the censors.
Yeah, they're talking about how the censors caught that because kids just didn't say stuff like that. We had Little House on the Prairie.
Well, they didn't say stuff
and
like that on TV.
Silver Spoons. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this was one of those things where you hear this. It's hilarious when we heard it the first time.
With our modern audience being more accepting of swear words, damn doesn't even seem like a swear word to me anymore.
No.
Same with hell. Because you're getting stuff on network TV that says bitch, shit.
Yep.
We haven't gone up to asshole and fuck yet, but who knows what the
We
future will
will,
hold.
Josh. We will. Because those are vital words in my vocabulary.
I mean, how the fuck am I supposed to give a shit about this fucking asshole if I can't cuss?
Fuck all of that.
And that's why we have an explicit rating, ladies and
I don't have to deal with
gentlemen.
this asshole. I'm not going to deal with this asshole. So then now we see Bart's day just going downhill again. He's back at the school of this scene because he's playing on the jungle gym. He's really trying to have a great day.
Yeah, he's
trying
still
to
into it.
impress them with his gymnastics, and he's hanging. He brings his feet up. It's pretty impressive. But he rips his pants, and the animation in that is hilarious because it like rips his pants, and you could like see the underwear, but it's like his
You can
butt
see
is
you
hanging
can
out.
see the cheek outlines. There's a
like
crack.
you would look like if somebody saw you with your, and it was just really well, and it was absolutely hilarious.
I love how also then he immediately gets pegged with a ball. and he just
It gets
gets
hard.
knocked down. Yeah.
It gets hard, knocks him off the thing, and then he hits the ground hard.
Yeah, much like a Snake throwing that rock at Wiggum, during the B sharps,
Yeah,
like, he just gets
it's
floored.
not nice. So, because and then we see him in the classroom, and he's got like the big swollen eye, and
Yeah.
he looks defeated already, and his day's just getting started. And so it's all gonna be okay because they've got the field trip this afternoon, and he's sitting in class, a bit miserable. And then finally, Miss Krabappel says, "Well, it's nearly 1 o'clock. You know what that means? It's time for the trip to the chocolate factory." And he's just so
Yay!
excited. Everybody's so
Ooh,
excited.
yay!
And she goes, "I hope everybody remembered their permission slip." And Bart immediately goes, "Ah!" And it cuts across town. It's under his pillow. And he
Yes.
can't go to the motherfucking chocolate factory with the rest of the kids.
I had a lot of field trips, growing up, but I never had one to a chocolate factory.
I feel this. Like
It's so
this
cool.
one
That
is
sounds so much
brutal.
fun.
Ugh.
We had a field trip to the back of a Carl's Jr. to learn how to fry food. Bullshit.
We appreciate fast food cooking.
Where's my Fudge all action chocolate factory experience?
I know. Well, maybe this is the one that got them all canceled because it didn't end up well. But I love this is where Nancy Cartwright's acting comes in, because when he screams, "Ah!" it's like Home Alone when he slaps his face. It is iconic to me.
She has really good screams. Absolutely.
Oh, she's amazing in this one. So yeah, that one hurt.
And then fucking poor Bart gets stuck with Skinner for the rest of the day.
The most boring man alive. Like the last principal you want to be goddamn stuck in a room with.
Also, like, do you think in modern days, like, the principal wouldn't just call up the parents and be like, "Hey, just come pick them up"?
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, they get serious about that stuff. Like, if your kid's supposed to be at school, they'll have somebody there if you have to stay. Yeah.
I mean, I guess it could be worse. He could be hanging out with Lunch Lady Doris and Willie.
I don't think that would be better. Skinner is one of those people who's like, you know what we're going to do for fun?
Yeah.
We're going to go pick all of the mites off the horses.
I'm going to put you to work in the fields and you're going
to... this one, but what he has him do is lick all of these envelopes that for the PTA, which I don't know if you've ever had to do that as like at the school or at a function. It's not fun.
Yeah, but like we would also have a moistened sponge.
Yeah, I know. That's exactly what I'm thinking. Like, why did they just do the sponge thing? Like, because it's pain is funny.
And I do send out Christmas cards every year, as you well know. So and there's like about 24 to 30 that I send out, and I lick all of those usually. So I do get the whole thing of it drying out. Like I've been there, done that for sure. But yeah, and then a fucking Skinner and his dumbass game. Let's make a game of it. You can see how many you can do in an hour, and then try to beat your score.
You know what? I believe in that concept of when I work at something, I keep interest by trying to do the best today that I've ever done it, and like have new tricks and cut into it the next day. So I believe in this, but even I wouldn't do this with Skinner.
But when you compare it to a chocolate factory field trip, to how many envelopes can you lick in an hour?
I'm unemployed. I'm on a chocolate factory trip. So yeah, and that was another one where he goes, you just see how many you can lick in an hour, and then try to break the record. And Homer goes, "Sounds like a pretty crappy game," which is a hilarious line.
Yeah.
And another censored line.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so at the factory, now you corrected me. I thought this was our first run-in with Troy McClure.
No, first with Troy McClure. For Lionel Hutz, I know it's the second.
Okay. Because we start at the factory
Phil Hartman
with the intro video, right? And so Troy McClure comes out, and for people who know the running bit, he's always like, "Hi, I'm Troy McClure. You might remember me from some shows as The Revenge of Abe Lincoln and The Wackiest Cover Wagon in the West.
Oh, we both love both of his characters, Phil Hartman's, and he has more
Phil Hartman's an amazing
characters.
man who was tragically taken from us way too soon.
Yeah, he was one of those that I just absolutely loved in
Yeah,
this
and
show.
unfortunately, the appreciation I had for him was only through The Simpsons for a long time in my life. But then as I started to look at his old SNL stuff, and like he was even on Three Amigos, and I was like, oh shit, there's Phil. And his whole relationship with John Lovitz and how they would try to one up each other and stuff like that. Also, if you listen to David Spade and Dana Carvey has a podcast, Fly on the Wall, they have a tribute to Phil Hartman. So I recommend any fans of this man's work give that a listen.
Thank you for telling me that. Actually, I haven't listened to that. I will definitely go and listen to that.
Yeah, I'll send you a link.
So the rest of that video is about the history of chocolate.
Yes, super accurate.
They do a caricature of like Native Americans first using chocolate, and they roll it and smoke it. And it is like a massive caricature of a Native American standing there, and it was just one of those send-ups by the writers of how many racist things we ran into at that time. You would go to some the zoo or something like that, they'd have these videos. The World of Coca-Cola Museum in Atlanta had a video that was like going around the world with different cultures,
Oh, really?
And, I mean, they did it fairly well to
I like how they specifically say the ancient Aztecs, so alliteration is always rad. And I think he looks like the Cleveland Indian mascot of old.
Oh,
right?
yeah. 100%.
That's what
it's just based.
It's color different. It's color different, but the design is the same.
And one of the funny lines in that, no, it's later with the Laramie cigarettes thing. So we cut back to Bart, and I love Skinner goes, "You didn't believe me when I said it was going to be fun," and Bart is looking absolutely just beaten down. He's like, no third, like his tongue is all swollen. And then the clock ticks backwards. He's like, oh, poor Bart. You feel for Bart in this episode.
I also remember those days when it was boring as fuck at an elementary school, and you swear that clock goes backwards a minute.
Oh, man. I'm ADD, so when I need to, exercise my mind and what we're doing is not doing it, then I go nutso.
Yeah.
So do not call a meeting if you're not actually going to get anything done, is all I'm saying. So then we get back to the chocolate factory and what I think is some of the best animation.
It's a lot of fun.
They have, the children's, I call this the chocolate factory gone wild. The kids are everywhere. They're on top of the pipes in the ceiling, and they're diving into vats of chocolate, and they're playing with all the controls. And there's a funny scene where where Ralph is coming down the conveyor belt.
Yes. Yeah. And he gets fudge right into his mouth. I also love the feminine, kind of skinny, whispery man who's like, "Children, play sanitary, please."
And who is it? The other kid is. Oh no! One scene I liked, I wanted to put out is that in this, there's kids running around. They're being chased by one of the kids who's taking his clothes off. There's like a naked kid running around to give you the scene of chaos in this episode.
Yeah, and like kids are leaning over vats and like their pencils and
their glasses, but then there's like a retainer,
all the things.
It's gross, and like a lot of it falls off these kids.
Isn't one kid swimming in the vat too? Like he's just swimming laps.
It's the sickly kid.
Yeah,
it's the sick kid that's like has
always
no
vomiting
color,
and
always
stuff.
drained.
Yeah.
It's the sickly kid.
The albino. I think Wilvin. Yeah. Anyway, that's funny. No, great animated bit. And it's what you would think kids would do naturally without any supervision in a chocolate factory. They would just go wild. They just go fucking nuts.
It's a bit like Willy Wonka, where they're dipping their hands in the chocolate.
Oh yeah, but like no terrible murder of children.
Buh. So we're back to Bart, and Bart is not doing well. His tongue is just covered like sores, and he
Yep.
looks terrible. He goes, "Can I go now?" And I love how Skinner's like, "Well, there's still a minute to go." "Oh, why not? But don't tell your teacher. I'll let you go early, like 1 minute early."
Yeah. I also liked how on the commentary Nancy mentioned that she was holding her tongue when doing this line to get it like extra like pathetic.
I don't. So, of course, as soon as Bart walks outside, rain clouds come pouring
Yep.
back in,
Yep.
just raining him on again. I mean, this kid's been crapped on this episode. Gets on his skateboard, he's going down, and of course the school bus of kids comes by, and they're all like laughing and screaming and having a
Oh shit, man! I just
blast.
thought of something. Imagine being on that ride home with those sugar uh infused children.
I mean,
Oh
they
my
had just
god.
been in the end of that
That's
scene
what I'm
there.
saying. Like,
They're kicking the mascot.
right,
Like they're
right.
like
So
just
like,
beating the crap out of him.
but imagine you're being
Then they get on the
Krabappel.
bus.
Right, but imagine being Krabappel, right? Or one of the other teachers
Mm-hmm.
and just oh, that must have been madness. I just thought I didn't think of that before. Wow. Yeah.
They're like, "Children, sit down. Don't use the fire
Oh,
extinguisher."
no, that's when you pull out the flask, you pour in the coffee.
Exactly. So start your Discman up.
Yeah.
So and then I like the bus splashes him. It's like the final skin.
Uh-huh.
So then the wheel comes off of his skateboard. It's like how unlucky kid get. He goes careening down a steep set of cement steps, which
Yeah.
sounds very painful, and he lands in a puddle at the bottom, and he's just like, how could it possibly get any worse? And we have 9 guns pointed in his face and cocking.
Always the cocking.
Always with the cocking. So then we have arrived, Josh, at the Legitimate Businessman's Social Club, which I
Yes.
love the name of because
Yeah,
it's
no,
a gangster even in there.
it's a little on the nose, which is why
The Legitimate Businessman's Social Club.
yeah.
Join us. So we get our first scene ever with Fat Tony, one of my favorite characters. We've had him in an episode before, something that we've talked about how much we love Joe Montana in this part. And I like how they said on the DVD commentary that he made them promise after the first episode, even if you have Fat Tony grunting or sneezing, have it be me, because I want to be this character.
Yeah, from the
And I
get-go, he was
love
owning
that.
the role, and that goes with today. Like I've seen more recent interviews with him, and he will say it every single time that The Simpsons always has a special place in his heart. And you know that's one of the reasons this show is so damn fantastic. Is they have dedicated staff members who do an excellent job, and having fun doing the part.
We get into this scene with him saying, what's with the kid? So Bart's inside the gentleman's social club, the mobster hangout now. They've all got guns on him still. Fat Tony goes, "What's with the kid?" And Bart goes, "Hands off the material." Like Bart's tough, and the guy's like,
Oh, this guy's got spunk.
I love the group of gangsters in this. They find them hilarious. And so Fat Tony's like, "Well, I hope you're lucky because if you don't choose the right horse in the third race, then we're going to kill you," basically. And Bart has a classic, "Eat my shorts." And Fat Tony's like, "Eat my shorts, okay? Wait a minute, he's not till the 5th race." And he
I said
goes,
the third race. The third race.
and Bart goes, "Don't have a cow, man." He's like, "Don't have a cow in the 3rd. Put a deuce on him." Uh, and so while Bart is awaiting his fate here, Tony's like, "Let me show you around." It's like, here are the slot machines, and here's the pool table, and it looks like a fun, like clubhouse for gangsters.
Oh, I would go
And
play poker
so,
there if I could like leave
oh
without
yeah,
dying.
well, the poker game ends up not being very good, as we
There
see
you
a little
go.
bit later.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's hard to win in that game. And so the guy comes on and says, "All right, the third race," and they're gonna listen on the radio. The third race, see if Don't Have a Cow wins.
And
And
we
they
have a
have a
very
great,
clever joke here, don't we?
yeah.
Like I didn't. This is one of a couple jokes that I didn't really pick up on, or maybe I did in the past, but it stood out extra when doing a more critical review of the episode. And
Mm-hmm.
so all the horses' names in this race are famous tune phrases. So we get Yabba
Mm-hmm.
Dabba Doo, Suffering
Mm-hmm.
Succotash, What Up, Doc?
That's
Uh,
all, folks.
yeah, yeah. What was the other one? Popeye, right? I am.
I am what I am.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's kind of a nice, I thought it was so smart because Bart is the new cartoon icon on the scene. So, of course, one of his signature Don't Have a Cow lines would be worthy to race against these other classic established cartoon bits.
And the acting of that character, you can do that pretty well. The like auctioneer guy is like, down the stretch, here
Oh,
comes
yeah.
Suffering Succotash.
Down the stretch, we got Yabba Dabba Doo, followed by Suffering Succotash. What's up, Doc takes the rear, followed by I am who I am. Wait, but who is this coming up on the fourth? It's Don't Have a Cow by a Nose.
That's great. I love that. That's stuff that gets you into the show. But and Fat Tony's, of course, he wins. And Fat Tony's like, I like this kid.
He's lucky.
Louis goes, and we were gonna shoot him. So they're like, can you fix drinks? And Bart's like, I don't know. And he's like, Legs like, I'll have a Manhattan. Make Legs a Manhattan. Bart's like, I'm not sure if I can. They, of course, threaten to kill him again.
They brought the guns, don't they?
He goes behind the bar. To be fair, he's brave in the face. He's like,
oh yeah,
right.
very much so. He's rolling with the punches.
He finds a recipe on the wall for Manhattans and he mixes it up. I like the animation there. It's great. He pours into the martini glass and plops the cherry in. It's a perfect Manhattan. And of course, Louis picks it up and drinks it. And he has this great line. He goes, "Superb."
Yeah, yeah, fabulous. I also love Manhattans, and I was inspired like when I was going through my journey of learning about cocktails. Right, I usually go for an old fashioned because that's what I was most familiar with. But after watching this episode enough and going to a bar that can actually make it, like I started to get a Manhattan, and
Really?
one of those are great. Two of those bad news.
It's a martini basically,
but
with bourbon or rye.
Yeah, and so it has like, because my brain is part yellow, become one of my favorite cocktails.
Well, the other thing about this scene is at the end, Fat Tony's like rubbing his head, and Bart like has this sense of accomplishment. Like they're like, "Hey, kid, you're doing great," and this is obviously a serious situation. This kid is stepping up.
Well,
So
also
then we
like think
get
about like how
into,
terrible his day was, right?
yeah,
And now this is like
right.
a little bit of a silver lining, so it's
I
comforting to the
mean,
guy. He
they
was down.
were gonna kill him otherwise, but
Yeah,
that aside,
right, right. But his bad luck, the streak ended,
streaking
and
and
now,
how,
yeah, yeah, because now he has a job because child labor's okay.
yeah. But they do a little montage,
Yep.
which is great. They do the great chiffon song, "Shooby doo wop doo wop doo wah." One fine day, you're
Yeah.
gonna want, yeah.
And he's like
They
getting
did talk
mad
about,
tips and everything like that as he's serving him
oh yeah,
drinks. And
it's yeah. He's got um, one of the things I like is he walks up to the poker table. And you look, and the first guy he gives a drink to has all aces, 5 aces, and then the next guy also has 5 aces. And it turns out everybody just has 5 aces in their
well,
hand
and
at
in the
all times.
discard pile is all aces. There's
All
like a
aces.
giant pile of discards, and they all have like weird symbols on them. It's not clubs, heart. It's not the standard clubs, diamonds, hearts, spades. It's like anchors or smiley faces or like other weird shit.
This just all from different packs.
Yeah.
I love then, and so he's doing very well. And the last bit of that scene is Marge pulls a wad of $100 bills out of his pants that she's
Right.
putting in the laundry. He comes up, he's like, "Huh, thanks. I was looking for those." Big stall.
Yeah. He's definitely embodying the Goodfellas role.
Which they said hadn't come out when they wrote this episode.
Yeah.
But it was so they're close. There was just a lot of people who kind of connected the two. So then we have an Itchy and Scratchy episode that Bart is watching with the gangsters at the Legitimate Businessman Social Club. And it's, of course, a gangster themed Itchy and Scratchy episode where you have all of the Scratchies gangsters lined up on a brick wall. And you've got a policeman, Itchy, slapping the baton into his forehand, and then he pulls out a Tommy gun, just blows everybody away.
Now I forget. Does he pull the Tommy gun out of like a violin case, or is
Nah,
that?
I think he just
No,
like
it's
pulls
just
it off as kind of like out of nowhere.
okay.
But maybe.
I was probably projecting in my mind's eye because
Now
I've
you say that, I'm
seen,
questioning myself. I'm
but
like,
I've seen this episode so many times that like a lot of my
Yeah.
notes are kind of sparse because I have it all up here in the dome.
Mm-hmm.
So I could be misremembering something. That isn't something I confirmed. But
It's
as we were talking,
it's a based on actually a true event, which was a
right.
St. Valentine's Day massacre, which was some other rival to Al Capone, and Al Capone had his guys dressed up as policemen and then killed them all.
Yeah,
similar fashion.
how you get the tagline from one of the gangsters, Louis or Legs, and he's like, "It's funny because it's true."
I love that. I love that line.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's true.
Yeah.
So, and then we get another well-absorbed.
Yeah. They love the mobster voices as apparently we do as well.
Oh, it's one of my favorite things about this.
Yeah.
And I love how now Bart is pouring a champagne fountain. He's advanced in his work quite quickly, and he's doing intricate stuff in it. And then our, Chief Wiggum busts through the door. It's not really our Chief Wiggum because it's a very early version of him.
Well, also, as we were discussing, Chief Wiggum in this is supposed to be the straight man, where like the mobsters are the wacky clowns. Usually he's the clown, especially in later episodes.
And we get a great back and forth there between these two where Fat Tony's like, Chief Wiggum, you honor us with your presence.
Baloney. I won't rest until one of us is behind bars. You know anything about a cigarette truck got hijacked on Route 401?
What's a truck?
Don't play dumb with me.
That's a fantastic line. What's a truck?
Yeah, I also like
that was a very good Wiggum, by the way. Like,
thank
you
you.
Nailed it.
I'm trying to get it consistent here. I also like how Tony offers him a Manhattan, and he drinks the Manhattan, and so Wiggum kind of like he kind of loses his edge. He's like, I'm still gonna put you away, you know.
Good for you.
Good for you. It's so patronizing. It's like you boys in the South or gals in the South would be like, bless your heart.
Good for you. Pat on the head. So they're worried about this cigarette truck, and of course we cut back to the house, and Bart's in his room reading a comic, and he's got stacks of cigarettes in his room. And I love it. Then Homer walks by, and Homer's like, "Hey, have you started smoking?" And Bart's like, "No." And he goes, "I'm going to teach you a lesson. I'm going to stand here and watch you smoke every one of those cigarettes. Then you'll learn." And there's got to be a million in there.
Yeah, no, they're stacked. His room, there's like his bed is the only thing. Like everything else is cigarettes.
It's floor to ceiling, wall to wall.
Yeah, and then we get the some guy comes in to pick him up. Right, so Homer realizes that like, oh, I'm sorry, boy, but like he's still holding the cigarette, and the smart ass guy goes, "Hey kid, you look kind of good with that cigarette, kind of sophisticated."
It's like, yeah, that's not the right thing to say to a 10-year-old kid. How old is
No,
Bart?
not at all.
Is he 8 or 10? Is Lisa 8? I think he's 10.
I think he's 10 because he's in fourth grade. Anyway, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He's way too young to be smoking cigarettes. You wait until you're 16 like everybody else.
Inappropriate age at any point. So, and we have a newscast about all of these cigarettes being stolen.
We interrupt this show for breaking news on Channel 6. Hello, everybody! We have breaking news at Channel 6. There is a massive recall of the locally produced chocolate bar, Fudge. The popular treat has been contaminated with just about everything. We now go to our reporter on the ground, Joe Newshound O'Malley. Joe, what's the latest from the chocolate factory?
It's absolute chaos, Chuck. Customers have found fingernails, pencils, eyeglasses, and thousands of our fudge bars. A child found his lost retainer. The company is recalling all candy bars distributed as of last week.
Fascinating! Now that's one lucky kid. Channel 6 has been reaching out for comments from the Fudge CEO, but we haven't heard back yet. Any luck tracking down a representative of the company?
Chuck, we've had no fudge in luck down here. The company's had no comment since the recall. Rumor has it the CEO has fled to Switzerland, but that has not been confirmed.
Thank you, Joe. Let us know if anything changes. To submit a refund request, please write to Fudge Customer Service at 123 Fake Street, Channel 6. We'll keep you updated on the situation. But that is all for now. So long, everybody. And now, back to our show.
And Bart and Homer are watching, and of course, as soon as they mention the stolen cigarettes, Bart's eyes light up, and Homer doesn't notice a thing. And so Bart's starting to cotton on to what's going on, and we have a Chief Wiggum saying, "Oh, we can assure you that all you smokers, there's no shortage of cigarettes out there."
Yeah.
And then that same, so this is what I was trying to call back, is the last episode we had the guy who's like, there's a 200-pound lady that's 200 years old. He's like, she's gonna kill us all, and leaps off the boat. Because we have another one where he goes, how do we know that?
Yeah.
And then we get a great entrance by the
spokesman of Larmy Cigarettes,
of Laramie Cigarettes, who is just as absolutely schmarmy as you're ever gonna see, you know.
Yeah, he says something along the lines of like, I guarantee you all our customers will have the sweet, smooth flavor of Larmy Cigarettes before you know it. Yeah, something of that nature.
He says the driver's been instructed to ignore all stop signs and crosswalks.
Oh yeah, that's right. Now I have this image of a truck just running through town.
Just like mowing people over, old folks and children.
Yeah, you better watch out, bull man. He's coming for you.
I also love in this scene that they're watching this newscast and Bart is sitting there filing his nails
and
like
he has a pinky ring. He has a pinky ring too.
So then they mention Fat Tony, and then Bart's like, now I know what's going on. And Lisa's like, Bart, is your boss a crook? And he's like, I don't think so. But now he's thinking maybe it is true, and he confronts Fat Tony. He goes down. There's a fantastic scene here that they also really liked on the commentary. Bart is like, are you guys crooks? And Fat Tony is like, is it wrong to steal a loaf of bread to feed your starving family?
No.
And for a large starving family, is it wrong to steal a truckload of bread?
Uh-uh.
And what if your family don't like bread? They like cigarettes.
I guess that's okay.
Now, what if instead of giving them away, you sold them at a price that was practically giving them away? Would that be a crime?
Hell no.
Enjoy your gift.
Superb.
He gives him like a nice suit.
That suit is fly. I would rock that suit. It's a very nice light blue shirt with a tie that matches. It's fly.
So I call this going full gangster. It's like he's putting on the skin.
Yep.
You know?
Before you know it, he starts singing Sinatra in the house.
He's singing Sinatra. Those fingers through your hair. And I love how he's like singing to Maggie right there.
Yeah, and he's like, hey, Ma, give me 3 fingers of milk. Yeah.
And he says it like with authority. Like,
yeah. No, he's starting to become a made man.
100%. And so Marge is getting worried about it. She talks to Homer about it, and she's like, I'm not sure about the people that Bart's working with. So they think they're criminals. Homer's like, a job's a job. My plant pollutes. Does that make me a criminal?
Yeah, that's pretty
But
funny.
that's where Marge was talking about the truck outside.
Yeah, she's like, there's a pizza delivery out there. They've been there for 2 weeks. How long does it take to deliver a pizza?
And he's like, our cover's blown. Let's roll.
And so another Schwartzweldian joke where the truck immediately returns, but instead of being in a pizza delivery truck, it's Flowers by Irene with the FBI vertically very
Underlined.
clear. Like it's bold, underlined, like totally obvious it's the FBI.
FBI.
And I just love it. Flowers by
It's such a
Irene.
silly joke, but it's great. It's wonderful. But Marge convinces Homer to go down and just make sure that Bart is not working for a criminal organization. And of course, Homer is clueless about everything. I don't know why she thought this was going to work. Marge is the one that should have gone down, but they maybe been sexist a little bit earlier in the show. So, but we had the great scene is Homer there, and they're just placating him.
Oh,
they're
yeah.
Playing poker, and he's like, read them a week, boys, pair of sixes, and they're all holding their aces. They're like, I lost, I was just bluffing.
Yeah. and then he's having a couple of drinks, they're buttering him up, and I love how he like comes back and he's like, Marge, there's just a lot of innocent male bonding.
That line is absolutely classic.
Because it's kind of true if you get rid of all the crime.
Yeah, it's a clubhouse. It's exactly what it's a gentleman's club.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they used to do. I love it when he's leaving. Fat Tony's like, I'm glad Bart can work here, and Homer's like, my daughter could work here too.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
He goes, Homer, you're a great father.
Yeah. Lisa could actually probably run some numbers very well for the organization.
Mm-hmm. So at this point, now we have an episode that they need to do. We should write them.
Lisa running numbers for the mob.
Yeah. No, I mean, like she's competing with the mob.
Right? Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So at this point, Bart is doubting everything, and they're at school. Oh no, sorry, not yet. Apologies.
Yeah. No, we got so he's back at school being the maid man, and he's commissioning 3 people to make a graffito tag of Principal Skinner, which shows
them. He's not getting his hands dirty.
That's what I'm saying. He's wearing the suit, so like he has his minions now at the school, taking jobs.
Right. I am a wiener. Well, wiener for Skinner to say.
Yeah, he's like do more stink lines over the,
He's like directing them. And of course Skinner walks up. He's like, what's this? What are you kids doing?
And then Bart goes, he puts a wad of cash. He's like, you didn't see nothing. And he pats him on the cheek.
He pats him on the cheek. So patronizing. Yeah. That is hilarious. And of course, he's pissed, Skinner, and makes Bart stay after school. He's like, I will not bribe Principal Skinner on the chalkboard. So the problem with this is that back at the social club, Fat Tony has invited all of the capos in Springfield, which has a surprising amount.
It's a full table.
The size of Springfield. Yeah. And they're all waiting impatiently. And we have this great, kind of the copy to copy, the Marlon Brando character. Yes, the head Don.
Well, he goes, Louis, make this man a Manhattan, but I only know white wine spritzes. And then so he's going there, and he's like, Louis is like, okay, I'm trying, and he pours it. And this is my favorite line of the episode. What have I done to deserve this flat, flavorless Manhattan?
It's a brilliant
line. One of the reasons I love this line is at my local bar, Boardwalk 11, best karaoke in town. There was a bartender there named Dan, and he is the person who convinced me to give a Manhattan a try because I was a Simpsons fan. So him and I would always have a running bit where he's like, how is your Manhattan, sir? And I'd be like, with the hands up and the pinchies. What did I do? So that's why I love this line so much, is because it's just something that I've talked to with people, and they kind of bring it up in this episode as well. And I will continue to bring that up and find
It's
bartenders that like The
brilliant.
Simpsons.
It's one of those things that the more you think about, the more I laugh. It's such a perfect
Yeah.
moment. He comes around and gives Fat Tony the kiss of death.
Yep.
Fat
Also,
Tony's like,
and
that's
then
all I need.
Al Jean mentions in the DVD commentary that the censors for the network were getting a little confused when they said gangster. Bart was going to be
Mm-hmm.
joining a gangster thing, and it's like, no, it's Italian mobsters, not the Crips and the Bloods. So like it
Mm-hmm.
was apparently it's okay for a boy to be a part of organized crime if it's the Italian mob and we're doing stereotypes based off of movies and whatnot, but
The
it's not
distinction he
okay for him to
made,
be part of the Crips and the Bloods.
the distinction he made was that kids are not just being recruited to join the mafia, not in the U.S. anyway,
Correct. That's true.
point.
That's true.
And
Versus,
that like a gang you could be drawn into, but this distinction is a tad racist, but
yeah,
it's cool.
yeah.
Well,
yeah.
so
Bart
pops in. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And he starts to complain about Skinner.
He's
And the
in
boys.
such a bad mood, you know?
Yeah. He really goes off. I mean, we have all had those, right? When you come home from work and you're super pissed off.
He's just like lousy Skinner.
Yep.
And Fat Tony's mad because he's late and he got the bad Manhattan because Bart was late for work. And he's mad. He says, you're late for work. And Bart's like, of course I was late for work. You know, how can I be there? There's Principal Skinner keeping me after school. And they're like, is he bothering you? And he's like, he sure is, Patron. And they're like, maybe we should give him a visit there. So they're going to head off to confront Skinner.
Yeah, and I love how the secretary goes, some large men to see you, sir.
I don't have an appointment with any large men. And they come in, they're like, you Skinner? And he goes, like, I'm Principal Skinner.
Yeah, because Skinner, he's a stiff, but he has a backbone. You know, he was a Vietnam vet.
He was in the military.
You know, he might be a little bit boring. You know, white bread mayo sandwich type of a guy, but he'll stick up for himself.
He has a great line there. He's like, how did you get past my hall monitors? Like, 10-year-old kids controlling the hall with a sash.
Well, and also, wasn't this after school? So, like, why would kids be staying late to patrol the halls?
It's late at night, exactly.
Yeah. Adding extra layers to that fun joke.
Kids, I guess.
Yeah.
So, in the very next scene now, after this, though, Krabappel bursts into the room. Homer's drawing Skinner dead at this point. And she's like, he's gone missing. Principal Skinner is missing. and Bart's like, uh-oh. He starts to worry that it's because of him.
Yeah. He's he starts to get slowly and surely over the next few scenes, like just a little bit more and more worried. Because like it starts off with some fun bits of Wiggum searching for Skinner, and they hire your favorite character of the episode.
And they're searching and searching, continuing not to find him. So now what does he say? We'll be using the most advanced scientific techniques in the field of body finding. And they switch, and it's Princess Opal, the psychic, and she's got a picture. She's got Skinner's picture in her hand. She's like, I see wedding bells for Vanna White and Teddy Kennedy. Chief Wiggum's like, yeah, what about Principal Skinner? And she's like, I'm merely the conduit. And she's like, Willie Nelson will astound his fans by swimming the English Channel.
Yeah.
It's like, really?
It's so weird. And she has a look too with like the headband on and the earrings and like the classic fortune teller type of vibe. And then we have the kids talking on the schoolyard, and they're all like, "Oh, Skinner is this. I heard this. I heard that. I heard this." And then someone said, "I heard Bart got him killed by the mob." And Bart's like, "No, you didn't. No, you didn't hear that. Can't prove. I don't know. What are you talking about?"
You're engaged in speculation.
Yeah, so Bart is feeling his unintentional consequences, and it's very much like Henry II when he said, "Well, no one rid me of this turbulent priest. speaking of Thomas Becket, the Archbishop of Canterbury in 1170. And what happened is a couple of like knight bros like in his court was just like, yeah, we could do that. Took the sword, went and killed him right in the fucking church.
Yeah,
So
you don't
it's
kill
like
a
one of
priest in
these things
church.
where like you say something and then like one of your followers or somebody you work with kind of goes too far, especially when it involves crime and whatnot.
Damn, Josh, you breaking out Shakespeare
No, it's
and
history.
history?
It's history. Shakespeare is different. I would have had to be like, dost thou want to lead this medicine
Oh,
priest?
you did say the line right, though. Admit it. So, a nightmare, we get a
Yes.
very dramatic sequence.
It's wild.
And
It's wild.
they go through. So it's scary. Zombie Skinners are coming up out of the ground, grabbing for Bart, and then Bart runs. He falls into a swamp, and Skinner's like tied to a rock at the bottom, and he sees
You
him
killed
hanging
me,
on
Bart.
like
You killed me.
you killed me. The whole time they're just repeating this, and Bart finds himself then in prison. He's in the death house. He's pumping iron, and Reverend Lovejoy makes an appearance here, and Bart's like, Reverend Lovejoy, you've come to comfort me. He's like, yes, Bart. There. It's the worst, but
and it
I
keeps
love
getting darker.
Josh.
Keeps getting darker.
Because mob outside of the prison
Yeah.
yelling for him to be executed,
Yep.
Including Homer.
Kill my boy. Kill my
He's
boy.
just
Kill
repeating,
my
kill my
boy.
boy. He has a sign says, kill my boy. They said they also got flack for this because among the other ones was Fry Bart Fry and let's have a barbecue. Terrible joke, but it's
Yeah.
amazing.
And so they're going with the classic electric chair.
Look there, he's too short. And they fucking put a couple of phone books like he's getting his hair cut. It's dark.
It's so good. It's so good. And
They
this
throw
scares
the
him.
lever and he wakes up screaming.
Yeah, and he's so scared straight, man, that he's in his PJs. He immediately runs to the club and he confronts them. He's like, did you guys kill Skinner? And I love how they're like, which one's Skinner? Who's Skinner?
Imagine he goes Chinese guy with a mustache?
Yeah, he's like, no, my principal.
They're like, no, we didn't kill him. And at this point, our chief now busts in ready for business.
You're all under arrest for the murder of Seymour Skinner.
What's a murder?
Love that.
What's a murder? Hey, deny. Absolutely. He goes with it. But now Bart has been wrangled with these guys and he is in prison for real.
Yeah,
and we get a very odd scene.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up because this is the weirdest thing in the entire episode. And we've talked about chocolate factories and killing children. So like there is a ripped Sideshow Bob sitting next to Bart
right
in the
next
same
to him.
cell. In the same cell. This makes no sense whatsoever.
No.
I only chalk it up to being it's season 3. I think they've had only Krusty Gets Busted at this point. So it's not established that Sideshow Bob would be coming back again and again and again. But after like a modern viewing of this episode would confuse the shit out of people because Bob would strangle the fuck out of Bart in the cell.
Bob would kill him right there. He's been waiting the whole time.
Yeah, and his arms are so
physical condition. Yeah.
He would probably punch through
Easy
his
pickings.
face. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that was.
We were both like, "What? What is that?" The first time I saw it, I was like, I didn't even catch it, and then I watched it again. I was like, "Wait."
Yeah, I was thinking of
Sideshow Bob?
The mom from South Park. What? You know?
What? But again, it's odd because it's just out of character. But we didn't know that character yet. That he was
it's
back.
early days. It's like when Smithers was black.
Right. Exactly.
Things changed.
Early days.
Yeah.
So they also bring with them the lawyer, and we get another Phil Hartman character.
Double the
his
fun.
second
Yay.
episode, but we get our Lionel Hutz.
I love Lionel Hutz.
I love the line there where he's like, Lionel Hutz, attorney. I'll be defending you on the charge of murder one. Wow! Even if I lose, I'll be famous. I love that one. We heard the one in the previous episode we were talking about where he's like, he gets the judgment against Bart. He's like, damn it, that happens every time.
Yeah. I also like how the mobsters now are trying to peg everything on Bart.
We have the trial. We
Yeah.
have the trial of Don Bartholomew here, where they're telling the court that he's responsible for everything. You have the Fat Tony first, and he's like, aren't you the head of this gang? And he's like, no, I just stopped by the club to read the complimentary newspaper. And they're like, well, then who is? And he points to Bart. And Bart's like, hey. And he's like, forgive me, Don Bartholomew. But then we get some of the other members in there with like Louis. He's like, we tried to stop the kid. We have another random mobster there. You and I forgot who it was.
No, I think he's just mobster number 5, man.
If he might have the best line in this whole thing, he's like, prostitution, loan sharking, numbers. The kid liked to wet his beak and everything.
They even throw Homer onto the stand, and Lionel Hutz goes, Mr. Simpson, do you really think your son is the head of a murderous criminal syndicate? It's true.
It just falls apart. Yes, it's true.
It makes sense.
So it's not looking good for Bart. The judge is saying, in light of this testimony from the gangsters, your father, your teacher, and his seemingly his endless parade of emotionally shattered babysitters, which is just a great, Bart has been bad in his life. But as he's about to be judged and given a sentence, Skinner busts in. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun, so he's like, stop! Just in time. And we get just a funny line from Homer. He goes, I thought he was dead. So
fucking
we
Homer
now get into...
Homer is so damn clueless in this episode. He's getting worked over by
I thought he was dead.
Yeah, he's just like... It's not completely dumb, but like very oblivious Homer.
He also puts his son in the electric chair, but... So what I love about this scene is Skinner then recounts his tale, and it starts with the toughs showing up in his office. He's like, I had confronted by a gang of toughs, and it cuts to Louis. He's like, we think the boy has promise. And Skinner's like, get out of here.
Yeah. So the whole the shift, like everyone assumes like, oh, the mobsters went there to mess him up. But really, they're kind of cheerleading Bart. Like, he has potential.
Yeah. They're like, you should pay attention to this kid. He's got promise.
Yeah, he's got spunk.
And Skinner's reaction is like, get the fuck out of my office.
Yeah, he's ain't having it. He's not having it at all.
So it turns out that he went home to comfort himself after this meeting, and he was going to bundle his papers, and they fall over on him. This giant stack of newspapers crushes him to the ground. He's pinned and can't get out. And that's where he's been for the last 2 weeks, or whatever it was. He's talking about how he kept alive by eating his mother's preserved, and to maintain sanity, he had like Wilson from what was the movie?
Oh, it's a basketball. Yeah. He has a basketball.
And he's dribbling it to keep his sanity. Right. It's a callback to, says, I made a game to see how many times I could bounce the ball in a day. Then I tried to break that record.
And he kind of looks at Bart with like a little twinkle in his eye, like, hey, you remember, huh? And so, yeah, it's very convenient.
You know what? I didn't look at Bart's face, but I'm going to go back and look, because I bet his face is very sour.
Or his eyes roll. He's like, ugh.
Yeah, exactly. Skinner's so boring, but
well, yeah, and it just for very convenient that everything that he needed to survive and escape was all right next to him when the accident occurred.
Before he gets out, he has one funny thing where he says, occasionally the police arrive to search my home.
Oh yeah.
And he's like screaming, and they're just totally oblivious. They're like, "You see anything?" There's like no sign of him. And Princess Opal is there again, and they're like, "Princess Opal?" She said, "I'm afraid it's Splitsville for Delta Burke and Major Dad."
Oh, they seem so happy.
She's such a good character. I
Yeah.
love her character.
Yeah, so I like how these dumbass cops didn't even search the whole premises. They're just not going to check a basement.
Right, he's right in the basement. They're like,
Yeah.
he's probably not down there, you know?
Yeah.
I know. I don't want to go down those stairs.
So he does get out. He's like, I used to be a teacher in science class, and he made a rocket and attached it to the vacuum cleaner, and he like pulls himself out of the paper by hitting the retract button. And
Nerd.
and he's like, exactly. He's like, I fashioned it from an old cigar tube, and I added lemon juice and baking soda. And it's like, then I ran straight here, and that's my courageous story.
And everybody cheers.
Line there. This where the prosecution is like, the prosecution moves to this testimony to be stricken for the record. And that's my courageous story.
And the prosecutor is like, I move to dismiss Skinner's testimony. The judge immediately replies, Denied!
Nice. It's one of the things we both remembered from the very first time.
Well, it was a very forceful delivery from the judge. He was, he could be a good umpire now that I think about it.
And then we get a Lionel Hutz line. Yeah, Your Honor, do I still get paid?
Fucking Lionel.
But we said something, Josh, earlier about in the house. You went also found by Mrs. Skinner.
Yeah, so I don't know when Agnes was developed as a character or regular occurring character for Principal Skinner. That may be something that happens later on as they continue to expand the character roster and be more within the Springfieldian populace. And so, if Agnes was still around during this time, there's no way her poor Skinner would have been missing for a few days because she would have searched the basement.
I'm going to make it weirder, Josh, because she's often in juries, and I think she may be on the jury as well. I'll go back and check.
Oh, that would be interesting if there's an animated old character design of her or something of that nature. But yeah. It's something that we were kind of talking about, and I kind of realized when we were doing our pre-production, so I didn't bother to look it up. But it's just fun, and of course the plot wouldn't have worked if he had a mom that's going to find him, right away.
Oh yeah, I mean, we can suspend disbelief just for a minute.
Absolutely.
So
and then of course we get the classic. Everyone's running outside the courtroom.
Case is dismissed.
Yep.
And they meet up there. Josh, and I know you really like that scene where Fat Tony's apologizing.
Yeah.
It's like, I hope there are no hard feelings.
Get bent.
It's just get bent. There's a great get bent there.
Yep.
And it was the joke right there that we both love so much is crime doesn't pay, I think is what Bart says. I learned crime doesn't pay. And Fat Tony's like, you're right.
Yeah.
He gets into the car. He has a very beautiful woman wearing diamonds and hands him a martini.
Yeah.
As he gets into his velvet-lined limousine, and all of the mobsters drive off in their own similar limousine. I guess you're right.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. And then we get him back at home, and this episode, man, ends on a doozy of a joke that is so compact.
Blood on the backboard.
The Bart Simpson story.
You do.
Yeah.
That.
So the family is at home, and they're like, "Blood on the backboard." The Bart Simpson story, starring Neil Patrick Harris as Bart. Joe Montana plays Fat Tony. And I love about this, and we talked about it, is first off, Neil Patrick Harris is Bart, Chef's Kiss.
Yeah, he actually did the lines for this.
Yeah, and then it's a very fun play because Joe does the voice of Fat Tony, but for the Blood on the Backboard, he is playing himself, and the animators draw Joe that looks like Joe, not Fat Tony.
He's playing himself playing Fat Tony.
Correct. And instead of being the gangster mobster, because Bart is the villain of this story, he's kind of meek. And he's like, hey, Bart, I don't think we should be around here.
Bart's it's like Doogie Howser with spiked hair, and he's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Shut up! Where do you want it, Skinner?" And then Skinner like hawks a loogie in his face. And
Yeah.
he's like, "Not smart," and he just blasts him away. Just pow, 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 pow.
And then
it
Homer's
wonderful to
bitching.
see Doogie do this, you know.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. And then Homer is bitching. He's like, "Hey, when are we going to check for this?" And then Marge says something along the lines of like, "They changed it just enough so they don't have to pay us." And then Homer does the what?
You know, the real crooks are it's those sleazy Hollywood producers, and it immediately cuts the dun 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 over the executive producers, James L. Brooks, Matt Groening, Sam Simon.
Yeah,
They said they loved that joke, that it was Sam Simon came up with it. Basically, Homer calling them sleazy Hollywood producers, and
yeah,
they
no,
came
it
up
was
with it
great.
for themselves. I love the idea that these producers were having as much fun as anybody.
Yeah, and also just it cracks up the room when your self-deprecating humor is sometimes the best humor.
I remember
Yeah,
seeing this
yeah,
and being like, that was an amazing joke.
yes,
Because that stuff was not done at that time. It was subversive at the time.
yeah, yeah. They definitely hit the meta stuff every once in a while, and they do it well because it's not in your face. It's very subtle, but it's well done.
Oh,
Nice,
Doogie.
man. So, what are your final thoughts on Bart the Murderer?
Well, for me, this is a seminal episode. There's so many references to the characters that we love. Just the group of gangsters, Fat Tony, Louie, Loose Lips, or whatever the other random guy is, Legs. We get Lionel Hutz. We get our Troy Clure. We get a ton of Wiggum with his group, with Lou and the other guy. And they're hilarious with Princess Opal, and there's just so many of the foundations of these characters coming in that I just love this, and it's hilarious too. That's why they lasted, because they're such good characters. I think it's 3-part episodes, like, you know, the bad day at the beginning, and then he becomes a gangster, and then you have the trial. I think, and then you have the little movie at the end they're talking about, and I think all of those parts are absolutely brilliantly written.
Plus a
And
chocolate factory,
oh God, I love the
right?
child. The animation that scene is so good, but
Yeah,
this entire episode was imbued with a sense of joy by the entire production team and everybody involved, and it just oozes out of the screen.
nice. Yeah, I second everything you said. I don't really have too much else to add for my final thoughts. This is one of my favorite episodes. I think the gangster jokes are funny, and even when I was a kid. And what I love is that you and I've seen this episode many, many times before, and we still found a couple nuggets in our review that we didn't pick up on before.
100%.
So that's fun when you are watching something for so long and you can still find something new.
And in doing these episodes of the podcast, we watch episodes 4, 5, 6 times at least.
Well, that was the old format.
And
Now hopefully we're only at 3 times.
well, just
Or at least speaking for
well,
me.
maybe 4 if you
Yeah,
are ADD like me.
there you go.
And but it was just a joy to watch. It really was
Nice.
just a joy to watch it each time, and you're still picking up on things. Some of the episodes we've done, I'm like, all right, I'm good. I've watched it enough times.
Yeah, departed.
But this one, I just love it more.
Nice.
Well, good job, Josh.
Well, good job, you. All right. Well, Robin, do you hear that sound?
What's that, Josh?
Well, then you know what time it is. It's the
Krusty Brand Seal of Approval.
Yeah!
Well, Josh, what did you give this guy?
I'm giving it a 4.
Do you have any extrapolation on that?
It's a 4. It's fantacular. It's good. It's not quite a 5 for me because it's really, really good. But I don't know what would make it a 5, but my heart just says 4. And I don't really have too much logic behind it. It's just like when I was done listening, when I was going through it, I'm like, yep, solid 4. This is great.
Excellent. I think you could hear through the excitement in my voice about this episode that this is what I think is the quintessential 5 for me.
Yep, I had a feeling.
It's just exceptionally well written, and the formation of the characters is something that really just gets me going, and that's why I give it a 5. It's one of the more important episodes of The Simpsons.
Yeah, I think it's great. You know, maybe I'm being a little too harsh on it, giving it a 4.
No, we can't,
But
we
but
cannot
it,
have the same score for everything.
yeah. And I don't know, like I said, I'm really trying to think. Like I don't know what they could have done more that would have like bumped up the score for me.
What you mentioned, and I actually took in, I thought, was that they get more technically in line with what The Simpsons really became, which is with the characters, drawn the way that we like them, and the writing is something that we just gotten so familiar with, and so I understand at this point they're still feeling it out.
Yes.
They're just testing the waters in this season. They're so popular, but they're only in the 3rd season.
Right. Yeah. But it is really amazing the jump between season 1 and 2 to 3. Like
Yes.
you really see it.
Yeah, three is different than 2, and 1 is very different from any of the other seasons.
Yeah. And I still like them, absolutely. But I still think that my own analysis is it's more of like the 3 camera sitcom bits. Like I have a wacky neighbor. I'm having trouble with the boss. My wife is cheating on me. I'm cheating on my wife. Like a birthday celebration, whatever. Bullies in the schoolyard, and then after they kind of hit all those stories, I mean, you got to remember, everybody, like it's 20 plus episodes a season. You all try coming up with
Often
20
22,
stories. Yeah, or 24 or 26. Like it's between, I don't think they ever hit as high as 30, but that's a lot of stories.
I'm sure there were some years where they did Christmas specials and things like that.
Yeah. And so like you're looking at 2 seasons, they've already done 40 to 50 episodes. And so, then, okay, what do we do? We'll expand.
Well, and what's funny is at this point, they were so popular.
Yes.
That they, at a network that did not have hits.
Right.
This is one of the very first hits for the Fox network. It was this, and then like In Living Color and a couple things after that, they had a couple big hits.
Correct.
But this was the first big hit for Fox, and so they could do it, and that's why they're pushing the censors.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, nice,
brilliant.
Well, that's a wrap for Sacrilicious with Robin and Snurts. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're feeling generous, then please leave a 5-star review with a few sentences. We are currently on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcast. Here's our shout-outs from me this week. Smokin' Joe is the only person to review on Apple Podcasts, and he gave us 5 stars, and I thank you for the kind words.
Thank you,
Robin, I also inserted my own review, but I think that's kind of cheap. You can do the same thing. And I totally was like, I don't know about this Snurts fellow, but Robin seems okay. And then I also want to shout out Tales of the Forgotten Network with a new sexy sci-fi vampire show called Vampire Beginnings. This is rated R, folks. If you're out and about in the world, please use your headphones and try not to get too sexually excited. It's a really neat story about like futuristic like space vampires and human slaves and stuff to that nature.
And you said it was not safe for work.
So no, it's super adult. No, this is audio drama.
Oh.
Yeah. So, and Tales of the Forgotten Network, the founder Crystal and her partner Hannah are really great supporters of me. They're the ones liking and retweeting. They let me promote on their Discord. Fans, if you are listening to some of their content, may also hear an ad from me promoting Sacrilicious with Robin and Snurts. So it's the whole like, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. So give Tales of the Forgotten Network a shot. Their latest one is Vampire Beginnings. And finally, we have the raddest fan of them all, Dr. Moxford.
The Doctor.
And he had a question on Twitter that I saw just before we started recording. So good timing, Moxford. And he asked, how are the Disney-produced Simpsons shorts? Any thoughts of doing them for the show? So, Robin, have you seen these shorts?
No, I haven't seen these. I did not know that they existed, actually. What is the format?
So it's a Disney Plus thing only. So these aren't going to be airing on Fox at all. And they're little snippets that usually include Maggie, but also have done Lisa. So, for example, when they joined the Disney network, because they bought Fox was purchased, they made a short that made like, oh, Lisa is now a Disney princess.
She was
So they
always our princess.
so it's kind of fun because now they can actually get the licensing for these characters and really play around with them. And it's very well animated. They have a couple of them where Maggie becomes basically a baby Jedi,
Nice.
and the one eyebrow kid becomes like a Darth Maul antagonist. So they're really cute. They're really well done.
She has killed before. I'm just gonna say.
Well, and especially for the Maggie ones, they're more like Fantasia or old school like Looney Tunes, where there's very little dialogue and just music.
Very cool.
Yeah, so they're fun. Are we going to do them for the show? That's something that we will discuss. Maybe we do something where we watch 3 or 4 of them and we just discuss those instead of an episode. And that is a good idea that I haven't considered before. And I thank you for the recommendation, Moxford.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear more from your old pal Snurts? Then check out the PlayStation Experience on your podcast platform of choice. I can also be found on most things at Lord_Snurts. Robin, any plugs, shout outs, or other things to talk about?
I just want to give a shout out to all the nerdy friends in my life who get so excited about this stuff and have fun together. Yesterday, I went with some friends. We did a double feature. We saw Wolverine and then we saw Twisters.
Oh, nice.
We made a day of it and it was a blast. Now, it's not fair to have Twisters follow Wolverine. Hey, ain't the same movie. But it was just such a blast. Just spend the day, the whole day, completely unproductive, watching movies and eating popcorn.
Very cool.
And it's that love that made me appreciate The Simpsons, and I've been talking about this stuff my whole life.
Very nice. Well, our goal is to get our next episode out on Sunday, August 18th. Snurts, I picked The Joy of Sect from Season 9. So until next time, folks, smell you later, true believers.
I think you could do third person.
Perfect. These freaking kids. Dope!
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.